The Galactic Council citadel floated inside a cradle of controlled gravity, its vast rings turning slowly against the glow of a caged neutron star. Light bent strangely there, colors stretching into unfamiliar shades as if reality itself felt uneasy in the chamber where laws were written and lives erased. Commander Elias Verne stood alone at the center dais. He was the only human present. Around him, 73 delegates occupied their assigned tiers, towering arthropods encased in ceremonial armor, luminous gas forms contained in shimmering fields, avian monarchs perched on metal thrones, and entities whose shapes defied comfortable description. They did not look at Elias as an equal. They looked at him as a specimen. High Arbiter XYR presided above them all, suspended within a lattice of obsidian light. Its elongated form was motionless, save for the faint ripple of its neural crest, an old species sign of judgment forming. The Arbiter spoke, and the chamber's acoustics translated the sound into something the human ear could survive. Commander Elias Verne of Earth, XYR intoned, "You stand before this council to answer charges of cosmic destabilization." Elias clasped his hands behind his back. His uniform bore no medals, no insignia beyond the Terran defense emblem at his collar. He met the Arbiter's gaze without defiance, and without submission. "I am here," Elias replied evenly, "to receive the Council's findings." A murmur rippled through the chamber. Several delegates shifted, displeased by the lack of deference. XYR raised a taloned limb, and silence returned instantly. "Your species conducted an unauthorized experiment," the Arbiter continued, "resulting in localized spacetime distortion within a protected sector. Such actions violate Article Null Prime of the Galactic Compact." Elias did not interrupt. "Furthermore," XYR said, "your government failed to disclose the experiment, failed to submit oversight data, and failed to request sanction." "Earth has not been shown evidence of this accusation," Elias said calmly. "Nor were we granted inquiry rights under compact procedure." The Arbiter's crest pulsed, a signal of mild irritation. "Procedure," XYR replied, "exists for compliant civilizations. Not emergent ones." The words landed precisely as intended. Elias felt the weight of them, but his expression did not change. A delegate from the third spiral leaned forward, its segmented mandibles clicking. "Your species was granted tolerance, human. Not parity." Another voice followed, cold and resonant. "You were expected to obey limitations while you learned your place." Elias let the silence stretch before responding. "Earth believed the compact applied equally." That drew something close to amusement from the upper tiers. XYR lifted its limb again. "That belief," the Arbiter said, "was your first error." The neutron star's light flared subtly, reacting to a shift in the Citadel's energy grid. The Arbiter straightened. "After due consideration," XYR declared, "the Galactic Council finds humanity guilty of existential recklessness." A hollow sigil ignited above the dais, an ancient symbol reserved for irreversible verdicts. "Sentence," the Arbiter continued, "is planetary sterilization." For the first time, Elias inhaled slowly. The chamber remained silent, as if the galaxy itself was listening. "Execution window," XYR said, "will commence in 72 standard hours. During this period, Earth may surrender all military assets, deactivate orbital defenses, and submit to permanent demilitarization." "And if we comply?" Elias asked. The Arbiter did not hesitate. "Your species will be preserved, as a labor civilization. Under supervision." Several delegates watched closely now, waiting for the human's reaction. Elias nodded once, absorbing the implications. "Extinction postponed, dignity erased." "Appeal?" Elias asked. "Denied." "Evidence review?" "Unnecessary." "Independent investigation?" XYR's crest flared sharply. "The Council does not justify itself to those it governs." The words echoed through the Citadel, final and absolute. Elias exhaled through his nose, then inclined his head, not in submission, but acknowledgement. "I request authorization," he said, to notify Earth of the Council's decision. The Arbiter paused. The delay was deliberate. Granted, XYRRKO replied at last. Your transmission will be monitored. You may inform your leaders of their fate. A faint ripple of satisfaction moved through the chamber. To the Council, this was mercy. Elias activated the small transmitter at his wrist. No hologram formed, no visible signal. The message traveled through channels the Council did not monitor, channels they did not know existed. He spoke only 5 words. They have chosen annihilation. The device powered down. Elias looked up again. My duty here is complete, he said. XYRRKO studied him, crest flickering with something unreadable. You show remarkable composure for a condemned species. Elias met the Arbiter's gaze. We've had practice. Before the Council could respond, the floor beneath Elias shimmered. A controlled displacement field enveloped him, preparing to return the human envoy to his ship. 72 hours, XYRRKO reminded him. Use them wisely. Elias allowed himself a small pause before the field took him. We will, he said. The human vanished in a column of light. For a brief moment, the Citadel felt unsettled. Several delegates exchanged glances. One voiced what others had begun to sense. He did not beg. XYRRKO dismissed the concern with a sharp gesture. Begging is irrelevant. Their fate is sealed. Yet as the neutron star pulsed behind the Citadel, a series of faint anomalies flickered across the Council's sensor net, too minor to trigger alarms, too strange to categorize. Deep within Council space, relays blinked once, then went dark. And far away, on a blue planet the Council had already written off, humanity began to move. Earth did not erupt into panic. When Commander Elias Verne's transmission reached Terran space, it passed through layers of encryption older than the Galactic Compact itself. It did not ring alarms or summon politicians. It went exactly where it was designed to go, beneath the Pacific Plate, into a chamber that had never appeared on any interstellar registry. The Terran Defense Council assembled within 7 minutes. No speeches followed. No arguments. Every seat was already occupied by those who had expected this outcome for decades. Elias stepped onto the circular platform at the chamber's center. Around him stood admirals, engineers, physicists, and observers whose titles had never been spoken aloud beyond these walls. They've issued the sentence, Elias said. 72 hours. A woman in a dark uniform leaned forward. Admiral Rhea Solis, Fleet Command. Sterilization? Yes. Appeal window? Non-existent. No one cursed. No one raised their voice. Dr. Han Volkov tapped the surface of the table, bringing a layered projection to life. It displayed a lattice of dormant icons scattered across known space. Then we proceed, he said. The room responded as one. Proceed. Across Earth and its colonies, systems long thought obsolete came online. Shipyards hidden inside asteroid shadows disengaged their masking fields. Orbital platforms shifted alignment, revealing structures that had never appeared on any foreign scan. Beneath cities, vault doors opened to expose weapons built for a war humanity had hoped would never arrive. Elias watched the data cascade without satisfaction. Council fleets? Admiral Solis asked. Mobilizing, Elias replied. Standard doctrine. Slow. Confident. Then they still believe we're contained, she said. Dr. Volkov allowed himself a thin smile. They always do. A countdown appeared at the chamber's center, 71 hours 43 minutes and 18 seconds. Elias turned toward the intelligence director. Any reaction to our internal surge? Minimal, Director Cale Moreno answered. Their sensors are optimized for excess emissions. We're not emitting. Good. Beyond Earth, the first Council armadas departed their staging systems. Their formations were ceremonial, vast, and inefficient, designed to intimidate civilizations that broke long before contact. They advanced in predictable arcs, broadcasting compliance demands in a dozen galactic tongues. Earth did not respond. At the 48-hour mark, Elias stood aboard the TDS Resolute, suspended at the edge of Sol's heliopause. The stars ahead were wrong, not distorted, but waiting. A junior officer approached quietly. "Commander, Void Anchor Arrays report green across all sectors." Elias nodded. "Begin phase alignment." Space shifted. Invisible structures unfolded between stars, anchoring local reality in ways the Council had never theorized. Hyperspace lanes lost coherence. Relays desynchronized. Navigation certainties dissolved into probability. Within the Galactic Council citadel, analysts frowned as their displays flickered. "Minor interference," one aide reported. "Likely stellar noise." High Arbiter XYR did not look convinced, but protocol demanded patience. At 24 hours remaining, Elias authorized the first transmission. It did not target the Council chamber. It went to every relay node, archive world, and fleet command within Council territory. The message was brief. "This is Earth. We will not be surrendering." The response was immediate. Laughter echoed through the citadel. "Defiance," a delegate scoffed. "As expected." XYR raised a limb. "Begin enforcement phase." Council fleets surged forward, and stalled. Across hundreds of systems, jump points failed simultaneously. Drives spun without traction. Formation integrity fractured as ships emerged light years off their plotted vectors. "Report." XYR demanded. We don't understand it," an analyst stammered. "Local spacetime constants have shifted. Our calculations no longer apply." The Arbiter's crest flared sharply. "Recalibrate." "We are," another voice said, fear bleeding through. "But the changes are propagating." On the Resolute, Elias watched as human fleets arrived without fanfare. They did not cluster. They appeared exactly where they were needed, above shipyards, beside command nexuses, near fleet mustering zones. Admiral Solis' voice cut through the channel. "All strike groups in position." "Hold," Elias said. The final Council broadcast arrived moments later. "Surrender immediately," XYR commanded, its voice stripped of ceremony. "You are facing forces beyond your comprehension." Elias activated the channel personally. "Negative," he replied. "You are." He ended the transmission. "Execute," Elias said. Human weapons did not roar. They erased. Council defense platforms vanished as their inertial frames collapsed inward. Fleet flagships lost cohesion, unfolding into expanding clouds of debris without explosive signatures. Command relays ceased to exist between one sensor cycle and the next. Within minutes, the Galactic Council's outer military shell was gone. Inside the Citadel, panic broke discipline. "They're not engaging," a delegate shrieked. "They're deleting us." XYR stared as systems went dark across the chamber's displays. Entire sectors blinked into silence. "This is impossible," the Arbiter hissed. Elias watched the Citadel through layers of filtered feed. He felt no triumph. "Council space neutralized," Admiral Solis reported. Awaiting further instruction. Elias looked at the countdown, now frozen at midnight. "Transmit final notice," he said. A single message reached the Citadel before its external sensors failed. "This action is not retaliation," Elias said calmly. "It is correction." The channel closed. Across the galaxy, civilizations listened as the symbols of eternal authority vanished in silence. And for the first time in recorded history, the galaxy began to understand what humans had been holding back. The Galactic Council citadel did not explode. It failed. One moment it hung pristine within its neutron halo, a monument to 10,000 years of enforced order. The next, its internal gravity grids lost synchronization. Corridors twisted. Light bent inward. Delegates screamed as the structure's own mass betrayed it. High Arbiter XYRRKL clung to its command lattice as alarms, long silent from disuse, howled through the chamber. "Stabilize the core," the Arbiter ordered. A technician looked up, mandibles trembling. "The core isn't destabilizing. It's being anchored." XYRRKL froze. Anchored by what? The answer arrived without sound. Across the Citadel's exterior, invisible human constructs locked into place, threading reality itself. The neutron star's halo stilled, trapped in a cage of altered constants. The Citadel could not move. Could not flee. Could not self-destruct. It was pinned like an insect. On the TDS Resolute, Elias Verne stood before a panoramic display of the Citadel, now stripped of its myth. Around him, officers watched in absolute silence. "Council command nodes?" Elias asked. "Offline," Admiral Solis replied. "Judicial archives corrupted beyond recovery. Military oversight erased. Civilian worlds? Untouched." Elias nodded once. Precision mattered. Within the Citadel, XYRRKL opened every surviving channel. "This is the Galactic Council," the Arbiter broadcast, voice cracking through failing translators. "Cease all actions immediately. You are destabilizing the compact." Elias answered, his image forming in the fractured chamber. "The compact is already gone," he said. "You destroyed it the moment you declared extinction without review. You will condemn the galaxy to chaos," XYRRKL hissed. "Species will tear each other apart without our restraint." Elias tilted his head slightly. "Then they'll have to learn responsibility." "You are not fit to decide that," the Arbiter snarled. "No," Elias agreed. "We're fit to decide this." He cut the feed. Human fleets moved again, not toward conquest, but containment. Weapon platforms repositioned to seal hyperspace corridors. Void anchors expanded, freezing strategic regions without touching inhabited worlds. The galaxy's great arteries closed, one by one. Across distant systems, governments panicked. Emergency councils convened. Ancient rivals fell silent mid-argument. Sensor data told the same story everywhere: the council's fleets were gone. Not defeated. Removed. A broadcast began circulating, relayed by merchant ships and listening posts alike. It was not a threat. It was a statement. "Humanity claims no dominion," Elias' voice carried. "No tribute. No authority. We require only non-interference." Some worlds answered with immediate surrender offers. Earth ignored them. Inside the Citadel, gravity fluctuated violently. Delegates lay scattered across shattered platforms, their power meaningless now. XYRRKL remained upright, sustained by its failing lattice. "You could rule," the Arbiter rasped. "You have proven supremacy. Why stop now?" Elias regarded the ancient being without hatred. "Because we know what happens to those who do." XYRRKL's crest dimmed. "You will be feared." Elias considered that. "We already were. You just misread the reason." A sharp tremor ran through the Citadel. Structural integrity warnings cascaded across every remaining display. "Commander," Admiral Solis said quietly, "the neutron halo is destabilizing under constraint." Elias turned away from the screen. "Release the anchor in 30 seconds. Evacuate the Citadel." Several officers looked at him in surprise. "They sentenced us to extinction," one said. "Yes," Elias replied. "We responded. That's enough." Evacuation corridors opened reluctantly as human systems overrode ancient locks. Delegates fled in disorder, centuries of superiority reduced to survival instinct. XYRRKL did not move. "You will be remembered as executioners," the Arbiter said. Elias met its gaze one final time. "No." As the consequence. The feed cut. 30 seconds later, the void anchors disengaged. The neutron star's halo surged back into motion, tearing the Citadel apart in a slow, inevitable collapse. Not violent. Not merciful. Simply final. Across the galaxy, sensors registered the event as a single line of data. Galactic Council authority, terminated. Silence followed. In the days that came, no one challenged Earth. Trade resumed cautiously. Borders were renegotiated without threats. Species once cowed by Council decree began speaking for themselves. Human fleets withdrew, leaving no garrisons, no banners, no monuments. On Earth, life continued. Cities remained intact. Children went to school unaware that extinction had been averted by preparation rather than luck. Elias stood once more beneath Sol's light, watching distant stars reclaim their familiar order. Admiral Solis joined him. "They're calling it the turning." Elias exhaled slowly. "Names don't matter." "What does?" "That they remember," he said. "Next time someone mistakes restraint for weakness." Beyond them, the galaxy adjusted to a truth it could no longer deny. Humanity had not sought war. But when judged, condemned, and cornered, it had answered. And the galaxy would never forget the sound of its own trembling. The galaxy did not celebrate. There were no victory broadcasts, no triumphant declarations echoing across the stars. The silence left behind by the Galactic Council's collapse was too heavy for that. It pressed into every system like a held breath, forcing civilizations to confront a reality they had avoided for millennia. There was no authority anymore, only consequence. On Earth, the Terran Defense Council convened one final time. The chamber beneath the Pacific Plate felt different now. The urgency that had once sharpened every decision had dulled, replaced by a measured stillness. Commander Elias Verne stood at the center again, but this time the display showed rebuilding instead of war. "Status," Elias said. Director Moreno answered first. "No hostile fleet movements detected. Independent coalitions forming, mostly defensive. Several former Council worlds have requested mediation frameworks." Admiral Solis folded her arms. "They want us to lead." Elias did not respond immediately. Dr. Volkov leaned forward, fingers steepled. "Leadership creates dependency. Dependency becomes resentment. We designed our response to avoid both." A murmur of agreement passed through the chamber. "Then we stay consistent," Elias said at last. "We don't replace what fell. We let them decide what comes next." "And if they decide poorly?" Solis asked. Elias met her gaze. "Then they'll learn. The same way we did." The council dissolved quietly. No formal adjournment was needed. The work was finished. Days later, Elias found himself aboard a civilian transport bound for Luna. The warship corridors and command decks were behind him for the first time in months. The ship hummed softly, filled with ordinary passengers, engineers, traders, families returning to orbital homes. No one recognized him. A child across the aisle stared out the viewport, watching Earth recede into blue and white distance. "Is it over?" the child asked her mother. The woman hesitated, then smiled. "Yes. It's over." Elias turned back to the stars. Across former Council space, the consequences unfolded slowly. Without centralized enforcement, ancient grudges resurfaced, but so did suppressed voices. Worlds once stripped of sovereignty began negotiating openly. Trade routes shifted, no longer guarded by intimidation but mutual interest. Some systems descended into conflict. Others surprised everyone. On the ash-gray world of Kethra, rival species signed their first voluntary accord. On Ilion Prime, a council of equals replaced a governor installed centuries earlier. Not every outcome was peaceful, but every choice was their own. That, more than anything, unsettled the galaxy. A month after the Citadel's fall, an unencrypted transmission reached Earth. It did not carry threat signatures or demands. It carried hesitation. "This message is addressed to Commander Elias Verne," the voice said. "From the Coalition of Peripheral Systems." Elias listened from his home overlooking Luna's Terminator. We believed the council was eternal, the speaker continued. When it fell, we expected you to take its place. You did not. We don't understand that restraint. Elias recorded his response personally. You mistake absence for abandonment, he said. We didn't stay because we didn't come for control. We came to survive. A pause followed. What if something like the council rises again? The voice asked. Elias considered the question carefully. Then remember what stopped it. Not us, but the knowledge that unchecked power has a cost. The transmission ended. Weeks passed. Human fleets remained within Terran space, gradually deactivating systems once thought indispensable. Void anchors folded back into theoretical impossibility. Shipyards returned to civilian output. The machinery of annihilation was sealed, not dismantled, but stored where memory could not fade. On a quiet evening, Elias walked along Luna's surface beneath a sky filled with Earthlight. Admiral Solis joined him, her boots crunching softly against regolith. You're leaving the service, she said. Yes. Retirement? Observation, Elias replied. Someone has to watch how this story continues. She smiled faintly. You think they'll tell it right? No, he said. But they'll tell it. They stopped near the edge of a habitat dome, watching ships drift between worlds now uncertain but free. You know, Solis said, there are worlds out there that still fear us. Elias nodded. Fear is honest. Reverence would have been dangerous. Above them, the stars burned steadily, unchanged, indifferent. Far from Earth, in the ruins of the former Citadel system, debris still spiraled slowly into the neutron star. Among the fragments floated a cracked data core, its final transmission looping endlessly into the void. A record of a judgment passed without mercy. A reminder of what had been lost. Civilizations that discovered the fragment did not erase it. They archived it. Taught it. Whispered it as warning rather than legend. Not as a tale of conquest. But as a lesson. Humanity did not conquer the galaxy. It did not rule. It did not dominate. It simply refused to be erased. And in doing so, it changed everything that came after. The galaxy moved forward, not united, not peaceful, but awake. And somewhere among the stars, the memory lingered. When Earth was condemned. When annihilation was declared inevitable. When extinction was written into law. Humanity answered. Not with words. But with resolve strong enough to make the universe hesitate. And that hesitation would echo far longer than fear ever could.